All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to do just hopefully a brief and concise 2026 Bassmaster Opens end of season recap here. Obviously, if you guys have been following the channel or following my socials, definitely not the year that we wanted or expected in terms of results. Missing the EQs again this year. I think overall in AOI standings, finishing 112th. Only had one finish this year in the top 100 and 85th at Kentucky Lake. So just very, very disappointing year. And it really started off extremely poorly at Rayburn, and I was just never able to recover from that tournament, which I believe I finished 156th out of 200. A finish like that, you really gotta basically almost cash a check all the way through the rest of the year to have a shot to get into that top 50. And Angler of the Year points to move on to the EQs. So put myself in a hole very early on, but past couple days after lacrosse here, I've done a bit of thinking, a bit of reflecting on kind of why the season went the way it did. And so I'm going to briefly just kind of go through each tournament and just give you guys a little bit into my thoughts and kind of reflection on each of them. And all learning lessons though. Things that I can hopefully take with me and learn from and improve on. So first one was Sam Rayburn in February, finished 156th. Caught a limit each day, but only about 12 pounds each day. What sunk me in that tournament, I actually had a great practice. What sunk me was first being unprepared with my tackle organization. I made a video a couple months back about how the difference in a Nico weight really made a huge difference for me in practice. I was using a 1/16th, and I had well over 75% bite rate on that when throwing at fish. Ended up running out of 1/16ths and not knowing what size they were. I assumed it was an 1/8, and it wasn't. And that fall rate made a huge difference. There were so many fish I threw out in the tournament that just did not commit, that I truly believe would have committed if I had a 1/16th weight. Not only that, but I was not privy to the quickie. I actually owned a couple, but did not understand how to fish them. I assumed one thing. I threw it a little bit in practice, but I just didn't have confidence in it, and I didn't know how people were fishing them. It wasn't really known until after that tournament, unless you were in the know or just had experimented with it in the couple months or year prior. So two things there on Rayburn. That's why I had a pretty bad finish. That's a heavyweight place. You got to come in with at least 16 pounds to have an okay finish. Moving on to Grand Lake. That one was probably the most disappointing tournament finish for me, considering I had a great day one and was sitting in 27th place and only caught 2 fish on day 2, moving me all the way down to, I believe it was 124th place. So dropped nearly 100 places in that tournament. That one goes back to practice. That is a tournament where I did not diversify my approach. I did not diversify my baits or my strategy in practice. I got on a flipping bite pretty early, and I kind of just ran all the way around the lake just looking for good flipping bites. I feel comfortable doing that, but not once did I really try to fish any sort of main lake rock points or shad spawn deals or really anything that wasn't kind of in the back of a cove flipping. I had so many bites, I shook so many off, I thought I'd be okay for the tournament. Not realizing that the vast majority, if not all the fish I caught flipping were on beds. And when you catch those fish, they don't come back. I had a fabulous day one, but those were all more than likely bed fish that do not replenish. And we were kind of towards the end of the spawn too, so you had a major population that was on the main lake. Some pre-spawn, but a lot of post-spawn fish that were feeding on shad. And I don't have a lot of experience with shad spawn stuff, but I should have at least attempted to throw some more moving baits, spinner baits, mag draft style baits outside of the coves and on the rocky points. Of course, that's hindsight, but the big takeaway there in practice is I did not diversify my approach. I did not diversify how I was fishing, and then on day 2, I was unable to adjust and lacked confidence to try something completely different, and ended up only coming in with 2 fish that day. Moving on to Kentucky Lake. Ended up being my best finish of the year. Isn't saying much, 85th place. Also failed to get a limit on day 1 there. Came in with 3 for 9.5, which was great for 3 fish and kept me in it. And then day 2 rebounded with a limit for 12.5. But again, I only had 2 fish before the last hour where I managed to get it on a little rock deal. That tournament was, again, when we look back at practice, it was a big piece of it was not having any experience having to side scan and look for individual structure, isolated structure and cover that fish were holding on to. I kind of got on that deal late on day 1 of practice, side scanned a bunch, found some things, but certainly if I had more experience with that side of the technology, and that just comes with kind of the era that I kind of started in bass fishing the past couple years. There hasn't really been a lot of need necessarily, especially up north, to side scan. A lot of it is look at your mapping and drop the trolling motor and scope and find things on your scope. So that was something I didn't have a lot of experience with. Only managed to find really one productive brush pile that happened to be an amazing brush pile, but it couldn't carry me through the tournament. The other thing with Kentucky that I look back on and what I wish I would have done better on, and this is going to go right into the last event I'm about to talk about here at La Crosse, was not really expanding on certain things. The riprap right outside the ramp at Paris had a lot of fish. I knew it had fish. It had rock piles. I caught some in practice. I ended up finishing my day 2 there. And that's how I was able to get a limit and come in with above, top half finish. But I didn't expand on that in practice. I didn't fish the other riprap on other bridges. I didn't really look for anything like that, and I should have. And I know people did very well on those types of things in that tournament. So it's disappointing that I didn't, in practice at least, try to expand on that specific pattern that I did find during practice. And lastly, at La Crosse, finished up in 112th. Failed to get a limit on day 2. I did have the bites to get a limit, but I lost them, and that just happens sometimes. But La Crosse is a place I've done very well in the past. This place was fishing totally different. When I look back at the tournament, I look at the results, I look at some of the places that people were fishing, I was in the right areas for the most part. Tom Mansour finished 2nd. I fished around him in the tournament a little bit, but in practice, I practiced the area he was in, as well as Matt Steffen, who had a great finish there as well. I was around him on day 1 in the tournament and practiced a lot of the same stuff he did. And what it boiled down to in those 2 instances, in those 2 areas specifically in Pool 7, that I didn't pick up on in practice was I felt like I was probably fishing a little too slow in practice, and I wanted to see a lot of different things. I wanted to diversify it, right? Learn a lesson from Grand. But what I didn't do is I didn't fish things fully through. There were sections of cut banks that I kind of just stopped fishing because I hadn't gotten a bite and didn't move down closer to Onalaska. That ended up being extremely productive and had a lot of nice fish. And I just kind of pulled the plug on it before I got to the right areas within the general area that I was in. Same with the spot in Onalaska with Mansour. There was a weed edge that kind of went all the way around in a bowl. I fished about 75% of it, and of course the one spot that I didn't even make a cast on is the spot that he did most of his damage on, just spot locked, making the same cast. Not saying I would have maybe figured that spot out, but I didn't even look at it. I didn't even fish it, and I was literally a stone throw away from it. So it's very disappointing that way. La Crosse, I did make some adjustments on day 2 to get me more bites. Ultimately lost 2 keepers that would have certainly had me at least at a respectable finish somewhere in the top half. But again, still not a great tournament. And just to kind of conclude on this year, and this has actually gone into even my local tournaments this year. I feel like in almost every tournament, I end up not fishing for a check or a good finish or a win. I'm fishing for a limit. And that's kind of a problem when you consistently find yourself not getting keeper bites consistently especially early on. I fish, as most anglers do, fish much better once you have 5 in the box. I felt like nearly every day this year, I was just struggling just to get that 5th one in the box. And when you're just trying to fish to get keeper bites, you're not thinking straight, you're not fishing with confidence, you're not fluid, your mind's not going in the right directions, and you end up coming in with a bad finish. You end up not being able to make good decisions on the fly, fish new water sometimes. You're just trying to get 5 in the box. And a lot of times I got my 5th one in the last hour. And at that point, there isn't much time to really kind of swing a little bit harder and try to do things to get you a good finish. So it's certainly been a struggle this year. I'm very thankful for my one good finish at Cherokee. That's kind of keeping me mentally in it right now. Got it to look forward to that nation championship in Hartwell in November. But ultimately, guys, open season this year, kind of a disaster, a major failure. And just, you know, I learned lessons, but it still wasn't up to my standard. And we'll see if I do it next year. I'm hopeful that I'll hop back in next year. But we got a lot of time to make that decision. So I'm just going to kind of plug away at some of the local stuff here in the next couple weeks and try to get a lot more time on the water and practice a lot of different things and maybe travel a little bit to kind of see different kind of lakes and stuff that I don't have much experience on. So anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't. I'll catch you guys on the next one.